Welcome to the 2020 presidential debates. No, just kidding. This is Matt Fernandez with Anchorage Community Theater, and we're back after 9 months of just not doing this show anymore. We are back with the Alaska Theater Community, and today my guest is P. Shane Mitchell.
One and only.
Yes, a staple, a paperclip in the, a nail in the Anchorage theater community, and of course, one of the heads and brainchilds of TBA Theater. But before we begin, before we applaud you, let's just make sure how safe we actually are.
All right, let's check that out.
Damn, this thing is in inches, not feet. But I remember from Indiana Jones, from Raiders of the Lost Ark, that 72 inches is about 6 feet. So I guess we're good.
We're in there. All right. So,
How are you doing, Shane?
well,
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you, Matt. It's good to be here. You know, as we are 6 feet apart, and your ventilators are running here at ACT, and it's really just me, you, and Devin. If you don't mind, I think I'm going to take off my mask.
I don't mind at all.
But
leave the beard on.
I get mumbly in my mask, and
I'm tired of smelling my own breath.
Right, on a scale from 1 to 100, it's not peppermint fresh under here. So.
No, but so it's good to see you again. I want to start off with a gotcha question.
Okay.
Why do people love you so much? Now, is it 100% physical, or is it?
It is 100% not physical. When I think it's because I look like Santa Claus.
Yes.
People mistake me for a figure of universal benevolence. And you know, when you look like Santa Claus, you got the tummy, you got the beard, you know. You feel the need to cultivate that image in the minds of people.
No, but
it's a very sweet thing for you to say. You know?
Well, I mean, I consider you, as I've considered some of my guests, like David Haynes and stuff, as a staple in the Anchorage theater community. I mean, you can't think of the Anchorage theater community without having you pop into to our heads. You've been doing it for a long time. The first time I saw you was probably late 80s, early 90s. You were right outside my parents' house, actually, right outside my brother Mike's window with the jukebox, the boombox.
Yes, yeah.
And playing Peter Gabriel for him, and I thought that was a little awkward but touching.
You know, people often cite that. I think most women would take that as a fairly stalkerish gesture. I think if I would show up trying to be romantic with a boombox underneath any woman's window.
Well, I mean, if you're playing Eminem, I mean, that was scary.
When, you know, my wife, Erin, and I were high school sweethearts, and kind of raised on the Romeo and Juliet tradition, you know. I wanted to do this grand romantic gesture. It was late at night. Her bedroom was on the 3rd floor, so I literally had to scale the wall up to her bedroom window and tap on it. And she opened the window and said, "What are you doing here? Go home." Oh, okay. So, you know, I think if it had been with a boombox, things would have been even worse.
Now, is that like an annual anniversary tradition? You just replay that here?
I think my scaling days are well and truly behind me. I don't know that there are many walls or trellises that would hold me in my current form. But no, it for all that it failed as a romantic gesture at the moment, you know, we've been together since 1981, so it worked to some degree.
I truly, though, I think the first time I saw you or met you was when my brother Mike Larson was doing I don't even think it was called the Barons Fair at the time. It was just the Renaissance.
Yeah, the Anchorage Renaissance Festival. Yeah.
And it was down at the dog mushing place, I believe.
Yep, kosher track.
And I think it was like 90, 91 maybe when we all went to see Mike do the thing. I got to see you guys do this. And one thing I remember from that was you guys are you guys are the Blue Court, right? So
Right.
you're Arabic and Muslim and Moors and everything like that. And this Christian group came by and started singing Jesus, 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 and at you guys, and your response was Allah, Allah, Allah. And I remember even as a kid, I was like, wow, that's pretty witty, that's pretty quick, But no,
Well, you did the Blue Court with us for a couple of years.
I did, yeah.
You paid your dues in the Three Barons
I
Festival.
did, yeah. And the funny thing about it is, whenever I see the Renaissance or the Barons Fair again, I see some of the same little tradition, the guards doing some of the same little
Yeah.
things that were done back in the 90s and stuff. But I mean, we were up. I loved being up at that hilltop.
Oh, that was so
I mean, it was
beautiful.
not fun to go to rehearsal and the show every day and climb that hill, but.
And it wasn't particularly friendly to strollers or wheelchairs. It was a beautiful venue, but it's a more generous gesture to be
There
on
were
a
some
flat ground.
baby avalanches, reliving the Battleship Potemkin scene a lot. But yeah, no. So, well, real quick, what do you guys got going on now? How have you guys reacted to COVID since March? And oh my gosh, like I think, I mean, among the theater companies, in my opinion, I think yours was one of the more tragic stories. You had a huge musical
We did.
that got completely shut down.
We were in Tech Week just before we were opening Hello Dolly. So the set is built, the costumes are built, it's rehearsed, the orchestra is there, and pandemic strikes and everything gets put into boxes. And the good news with it, though, is that the people who hold the rights to the show have been very, very generous with us.
Yeah.
We're still holding on to our scripts and our scores. People are still practicing their music, their lines, all that stuff, waiting for the day when everything's going to be back. And Hello Dolly is stored at the Wendy Williamson Auditorium and the UAA campus, waiting for that shining day, and bang.
What about your cast? I mean, are they
We've lost some.
Yeah.
There are some people who have moved away, and so we will be doing a recasting of it. I think Aaron, who is the director, will offer anybody who wants to come back their original roles, and then only audition for the roles of people who can't come back.
Well, I remember those beginning, like, I remember that Friday or the Thursday or Friday when, I think it was a Friday the 13th, March 13th, when all that stuff started to happen with the coronavirus, and many of us were just unsure of, okay, the mayor just shut down all the municipal buildings, and we were all kind of unsure what to do, but the idea was, well, let's, go on.
Right.
I mean, ACT had a show here that we were doing in partnership with Sweet Wine, and I mean, it was our first, weekend, and it was supposed to be a 3-week run.
Yeah.
And we were really, I remember just that whole day being on the phone with folks, and Colby was working here at the time, and both her and I were like, should we shut down, should we do it? I mean, we just did not know what to do. But I remember what was particularly devastating for you guys was that your show was at the university.
Right.
And once everything got shut down, it was like you guys were definitely not going to be able to do the show.
Right. The university, exercised great prudence, and they it was disappointing to us, but they actually shut down before many other facilities did. But it was just a shadow of where the tree was going to fall, right? Everybody ended up shut down. But one of the things that we felt that was very, very important to us is that theater not go away.
Yeah.
That there are ways that we can move forward and do things effectively. We had a production that was supposed to go to the Last Frontier Theater Conference, but then the conference got canceled, so that show was mothballed, hopefully to come back at this year's conference. But then we have our summer camp for kids, and because of the restrictions, we had half the number of kids that we could have within the camp.
Yeah.
But we ended up having it at our studio. We had very, very excellent safety protocols in place. So we ended up being able to serve about 80 students. We did a total of 5 different plays over the course of the summer, with no cases at all.
So how's that, so I mean, summertime was the real test for everybody who wanted to continue to try and do what they do in terms of theater. I mean, how did you feel about the challenge? Were you ready to face the challenge, or, I mean, how did it feel to you?
One of the wonderful things about what we do is that every show is a challenge, right? Every show has its unique problems. It's not like we get into a pattern. As theater artists, every show has its individual thing. You know, dealing with the challenges of a musical is completely different than dealing with the challenges of Shakespeare. Dealing with a bunch of summer campers who are doing a theater production is different than dealing with adult egos, right? So we're always shifting. We are always very, very present. So though it wasn't what we wanted, we were able to shift and do things. Our first performances were at Cuddy Park, there at the library. But then Mayor Berkowitz shut the city down again and disallowed live performances. So that's when we very first went to streaming. We were allowed to have 25 people total in an audience, which when you've got 25 kids in a cast, that means only one of their parents can come, right? And so that's when we very first started to stream live. We'd already started to do our coursework, all of our classes online, and that was amazing. We were able to do playwriting, we were able to do Shakespearean acting, makeup. Wayne did a wonderful thing where he essentially, I think he called it representative plays or something like that, where he would have people all read the same play, then they would get together as a Zoom class and discuss the play. So it was almost like a theatrical book club. Very, very popular. And so we've been able to shift and do those classes online. But then at Halloween, things were not quite crumbling back again. And so we had one show that we were able to have 20 people come to live.
And that was at a church?
We did that at Christ Community Church.
Okay.
Most theatrical venues were closed, but Christ Community Church opened up their venue to us, and it was a very appropriate place for us to do this.
I heard the ceilings are super high.
Yeah, it's very vaulted, and it's a huge space. It could accommodate 200 people. So to have an audience of 20, nobody's in any kind of danger. You know, we can, and then the cast is apart, and they were COVID tested. They started rehearsing masks, and slowly took the masks off. Most of the people were already in each other's bubble. It was only a 5-person cast. That worked really well, really beautifully. Then we did a show strictly online called Dr. Frankenstein's Halloween COVID Crisis.
And
which
did you write that one?
Wayne wrote it. My brother Wayne wrote it. And in it, Dr. Frankenstein has invented this new system of communication called Broom. And so they all celebrated Halloween through a broom meeting. And then we had one show, which your sister Krista did with me, live, that we actually performed outside.
Oh, yeah, I heard that was fun.
And on the 29th, 30th,
That was
and 31st.
cold, too.
It was cold,
Yeah, cold.
But you know what? Among other things, we did the show around fire pits, right? So you've got this live fire, and it's a ghost storytelling show. And all these people are in their blankets and their coats, and they're leaning over the fire. The atmosphere of it was astonishingly cool.
Yeah. I heard she was very cold. I mean, she would probably jump in front of a train for you, for sure. But, I mean, she was cold.
Yeah, she was. She was cold. Kristen would be cold on the sun.
Yeah.
She's
a lizard. It's part of the reptilian agenda.
She does love to bundle up.
Sorry, I didn't mean to turn this into Alex Jones, but we do.
But yeah, so for her to throw herself on that grenade for Halloween for me, I will never forget. It was myself and she and Katie McRae, who you worked with, Jessica Faust, and Reese Miller were the 5 ghost storytellers, and it was a phenomenal, though cold, event. And I think it's something that we who performed it will never forget.
Well, how did the community respond to that? Did they go to the, I mean,
We sold out.
really?
Yeah, we sold every ticket we possibly could, and we had people standing away from the audience in the parking lot, watching from a distance, because I'm sure you feel it. Our community, the whole community, not just the arts community, we are eager to experience communication live with living humans. And you know, I admire our medical professions and the people in the scientific professions, everybody who's trying to keep us safe. But we've been focused on physical safety. And there is a part of us that we have not been nourishing, that we have not been caring for, and that is our spiritual self. And I don't mean that in a religious context necessarily, though that too. But there is a thing inside us that needs to be cared for, our emotional self, our mental self, our need to communicate one-on-one, that even the miracle of Zoom doesn't feed that need. And people were hungry for it, starving for it.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And one of the things that I brought up to my board was I didn't realize that, you know, we talk about like, well, you know, you're home with your family if you have that blessing, right? You're home with your family. You're with your work colleagues. But in this I realized that we actually something we get fed spiritually or emotionally by just doing things with like strangers. At, you know, going to like a movie and just being around people we don't know, who we probably won't even talk to. I really believe that there's like that we get something from being around people within our community, and that too was being,
I think
you know,
just
lost.
move this chair off its spikes.
Oh,
Sorry.
well, are we still 6 feet?
We're more than 6 feet.
Okay, good.
In my excitement to agree with you, one of the things that we are always striving for, theatrically in our lives, this is a time of tremendous change. There is this great call for diversity to understand and know things from another perspective, to see things through the eyes of people who are different than us. And we're not doing that if we're sheltering in place, right? And we can get some of that. We can get some perspective electronically. You know, I mean, it's not like we have become completely retarded in our growth. I guess completely halted in our growth, but what we have been is retarded. We've been slowed way down because it's not the same to experience that culture. You know, I could. There are myriad documentaries that will tell me about another person's culture. But to sit with them and look in their eyes and hear their story is a different thing. And we've been missing that. And our audience has been missing that. The community has been missing that. You know, I know you guys were doing Karloff at Halloween, and you started live and ended up having to go virtual. And, you know, both of our companies are virtual for Christmas. And I'm grateful for it. People need it. We are selling tons of tickets to our virtual shows. But it's not the same as that live energy.
Were you planning to go live in December before the?
We were planning to do what we did at Halloween. We were gonna do 30 person.
Yeah.
And we did two artist shows to kind of reduce the cast. Grace Farney did Christmas with Laura Ingalls with Elijah Karaburu as he would fiddle underneath her performance, and it was just very effective. It was just this incredibly beautiful Americana story. And then in a story that is very familiar to people, my brother Wayne did a one-man version of Christmas Carol with Seth Eggleston on piano underneath him. And the thing that's about that is we've all seen the Christmas Carol. We're very familiar with the story. But when you are telling the story of the Christmas Carol and you're using Dickens' novel, there are descriptions and words and this beauty and power that is in the novel that is not in the film, that is not in the stage play. And Wayne brought all of that to bear, and Grace did such a wonderful job with Laura Ingalls. And we had intended that we were going to show each of their shows 6 times and have an audience of 30 per show. And of course, that was not able to happen, and so they went virtually. But it is still incredibly powerful virtually. And if you want to, the to see those shows is absolutely free. It's our Christmas gift to the world at large. Anybody can see them. And just go to www.tvatheater.org. You can get a code to sign in, and those will still be online through January 9th. So those were supposed to be live. Can't Cancel Christmas, the show that's launching today, was always intended to be 100% virtual.
Interesting. Well, tell me a little bit about that one.
That one is a fun one because TVA typically has a Christmas show that has between 30 and 50 people in it. It's a big thing, and it gives an opportunity to a lot of artists, a lot of families. It's a very wonderful thing. So we said obviously that's not going to be possible, so what we did is reached out to TVA artists and said, who would be willing to record a song or tell a story or do something in their own home or in their church or someplace that they're isolated, send it to us and we'll put it together in this kind of variety show package. And so the idea of it is that there are elves in Santa's workshop who believe Christmas is canceled because of the pandemic. And Santa Claus shows them a magic snow globe and shows them people celebrating Christmas in their own homes. And so it's got this kind of wraparound story. And it's magnificent. We have so many artists turned out for it. And then at the very end of it, we have people who have been with TVA in the past, alumni, staff, and students, and artists from all over the world sent us Christmas greetings.
Oh, nice.
And so the whole thing ends with this series of greetings from people from all over the world that may be familiar to Alaskan audiences. It's very fun.
I mean, yeah. Great to see. Speaking of the artists too, I mean, I have noticed at different degrees, the artists have really taken a hit this year in terms of, I mean, there are certain, especially young folks who are, so playing theater nerds that I know that will do play after play after play after play. I mean, we have one young actress who's done some stuff with us, a lot of stuff with West High and everything, and she was ready to go to the big old academy or camp in Juneau, set up to go to that, and then and just everything stopped, and we had her back in here. She worked on Karloff with us, and she expressed a bit about like how it was getting a bit depressing. Just having your life uprooted and stuff, and especially since you work with kids and stuff, and we just worked with a bunch of kids for the show must go online, the show that we just closed that streamed, and they came out of, kids came out of the woodwork to be a part of this, and the amount of energy that they actually gave to this online show seemed to me almost like pent up energy, and it really put things into perspective. I didn't really think about what kids are going through this year with, they're not at school, they're doing distance learning or homeschool stuff for the first time, all of their little summer programs, and especially, what have you seen?
Oh, well,
on your end?
Keeping in mind that when we did our summer program kicked off in July. And kids came to that program who had not seen another person their age in 2 months. And just, they didn't quite know how to interact. There was, and it took a good 2 days, and then all of a sudden they were kids again, right? But until then, there was just this kind of shocked, not knowing how to proceed. So you think about that. That was with 2 months of isolation. Then we had a month altogether in the summer camp, and now it's been another 6 months of isolation. And you know, you think about what a year is in the life of a kid, right?
Yeah.
When you're in the 4th grade, you think back to the 3rd grade, and it was forever ago.
Well, my thing was Christmas. Like, you know, it's gonna, Christmas is 6 months away. When I was a kid,
Yeah.
that was forever.
Right.
Now it's like, damn, it's Christmas again.
Right?
But yeah.
And you know, I've got a 9-year-old nephew, and it is tremendously hard on him. He is heart-achingly lonely, and even when he has the opportunity to, there are a couple of kids that are in their family bubble that he gets to go and play with, but they only play outside. You know, they go sledding or build a snowboard or something like that. And it'll last about 3 days, and then the loneliness crushes down on him. And I don't mean to in any way make light of the physical impact of this pandemic. You know, I know that there is loss of life. I know that people are very sick, and that there are symptoms that may continue with them throughout their life. And I am not downplaying that at all. It is a tragedy. At the same time, I think that in future years, when we look back on this time, what we will really notice is the terrible emotional impact.
Well, there's collateral damage for stuff like this. You try to manage things as best as you can, but at the same time that you're fixing this problem, this thing is falling apart because of this. I mean, it's
right.
You know, I mean, it really put into perspective the, you know, just how the lack of control we have over nature. You know what I mean? And the scary lack of control.
Right? We are very proud. It's like the Death Star. Don't be too proud of this technological marvel. You know?
Well, and I think maybe in Alaska we're a little bit more in tune with that because we get the earthquakes, the volcanoes,
right.
and that kind of remind us a little bit. Like,
right. It's all of a sudden 42 degrees on December 22nd. You know?
Yeah.
We're always shifting.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
So I'm very interested when I do this talk show about, I mean, one of the reasons I wanted to do it in the first place was when I came back to Anchorage and started to do theater again and stuff like that in 2015, I was doing that Christmas show at Cyrano's, and I was just, you know, meeting some of the people that I had known in the theater community, seeing them again, and you know, I thought, like, you know, how did these people, like, our Anchorage community is so interesting and diverse in a lot of ways. Like, how did people get into this? Like, I see, you know, somebody who's a lawyer, you know, and you know, they're a serious person, but then they want to spend their time doing this. And I see the theater nerd, and I see, you know, different folks. And so I'm very curious at how you got started in this. I think everyone would like to know.
Wow, that's a story that takes us a long time ago. I actually got into the theater when I was 13, 12. We had just moved here, and I was in band, and my trumpet was in a moving van, and that moving company went on strike. And so at Hanshu, they said, well, you can't be in band without a trumpet. So they gave me the option to be in an acting class, and it was
I can act like a trumpet.
That's right, act like a musician. And one of the things that happened is the second I got into it, literally on the first day, they were having this audition. And the class had met several times before I'd been there because we kept hoping that my trumpet would show up, right? And I intuitively understood what the director wanted, what the teacher in that class wanted, what other people were struggling. Even though I hadn't been in the class yet, I stepped into it. And right then I went, this is where I belong. This is what I do well. Because everybody has that gift, right? Everybody has something that they go, this is my knack. And I went, this is the thing. I should have never been trying to play the trumpet. And had a wonderful experience, and then I was active in the theater all through high school, all through college.
Well, I was just going to ask, so nothing before 13? Like, I mean,
Oh,
did you guys...
Of course. I mean, my first experience that I actively remember was in kindergarten. It was it was a Thanksgiving pageant where certain of the kids in the class got to play foods, right? The turkey or the apples and potatoes and all of these things. And the rest of the kids just had to be kids laying on the floor, having a nightmare that all they were getting for Christmas was bread and water. So Wayne got to be one of the spiced apples. And it's like, I think his line was something, just imagine, cooked in spice, that would not be nice. Oh, how horrible, cooked in spice, something like that. He had this featured line while I was lying there with 15 other kids rolling around on the floor going, bread and water, bread and water. It was not an auspicious beginning. And then in this time of year, the festive time of year, of course, Wayne and I did church pageants. You know, we would do the nativities.
Oh, nice.
And in what I remember distinctly, I was King Herod. I don't want to play one of the good kings. I've got to play the rotter. And Wayne played the donkey that carried Mary to Bethlehem. And we've kind of made that our tradition that even nowadays I play kings and he plays jackasses. So long-standing theatrical tradition.
So I mean, like at home, I mean, so I wonder if people who end up being actors or want to, seem to have that knack, have those kind of things in their play in childhood. I mean, my poor sister, I would, we'd play pretend together, but all my play that I did was movies. Like it had to be, her and I used to play Stand By Me, right?
Yeah.
I would watch that movie when I was a kid, but we'd pretend to smoke, cigarettes, and she'd be one of the, I think I let her be the River Phoenix character, and I got to be the Corey Feldman character. We go on adventures and stuff, and Stephen King land, I guess.
So nobody was the Will Wheaton character?
No.
That
We didn't find any dead people, but definitely not the Will Wheaton character. But but play was like, even with toys and stuff was a movie. It wasn't like that. I mean,
Yeah.
You and your brother, did you guys have any interactions or goofing off at home that would have let your parents think this is what you're going to do?
Absolutely that. And I think, I think it confused my parents a little bit. My dad was a forest ranger. My mom was a stay-at-home mom, and as a forest ranger, we lived in the woods. So we didn't really have playmates. It was the four brothers, and
I'm imagining like a Snow White scenario, and all of the ants.
That's right. Yes, the chipmunks would come and the birds. But seasonally, there would be some people come in, and they would have kids, and we would have playmates. And there were the kids that we went to school with, but they lived 30 miles away. So for the most part, it was the four of us. And imagination played a huge role in what we were doing. In terms of, in the summer, we would do role playing, that we would go out and adventure in the woods and play these characters. Growing up in the American West, it was very often cowboy related and finding lost treasures and Pony Expresses and whatnot. And but as we grew older, I think it baffled Mom and Dad that we were still playing. You'd come in the door and go, say it's time to have my dinner, say.
This is before Riddle.
Right, absolutely. So everything we did, we would assume comedy voices, and I remember my father just being baffled and terribly upset when he came in one day and I was wearing a cape at the age of 14, and what kind of kid is this? Ultimately, both parents came to understand.
And then they sent you two to West Point, and
that's right. That didn't work out.
Yeah. That's very interesting. And honestly, you guys still play now, right?
Absolutely.
Barrett's Fair every year.
Yeah.
That's all a bunch of adults playing.
Most actors I know play on the daily, right?
Oh, yeah.
When we greeted each other as I came in, we always greet each other with small comedy routines.
Mm-hmm.
And Like I said, comic voices are always coming in. There are running jokes within the theater community that nobody ever says the setup anymore. You just say the punchline, and everybody knows what you're talking about, you know. And so, yeah, I think that creative spark is always on us. It's what keeps us fresh, keeps us happy.
Yeah, yeah. You know, my brother Mike, who I mean, did stuff with you.
Oh, sure.
You know, was one of the
The
Bohemians.
Bohemians in Anchorage, yes.
You know, he you know, became a cop and does that now. But I mean, he still has that. He still goofs around. We still do the voices. We still do, you know, Beavis and Butthead impressions and stuff like that.
I remember years and years ago, I was conducting a rehearsal, and Mikey and my brother Wayne, I had my back to the audience, the cast was facing the audience, and they came in as the Great Cornholio, and they had their shirts up over their heads, and they would spring up from the seats, and the cast would burst out laughing, and I would turn around, and they would have ducked behind the seats. And it took me a couple of turning arounds to realize that I was being had by Mike and Wayne.
No, yeah. I mean, I was pretty young at the time. I was, you know, 13 to teenage years and stuff. But I mean, some of the shenanigans that Mike would tell me about was just, I mean, and I think I mentioned this before on the show, but for the sake that I didn't, I mean, one of the best ones is when he lived in that condo off of Folker.
Yeah.
And he said he was a bartender at the time, gets home late night, I mean, you know, closing up probably 2 a.m. or whatever. And he says he opens the door to his house or to his condo and hits his head on boxes that are stacked up from floor to ceiling. So apparently what happened is somehow you guys got into his house and unfolded boxes from all the way from the sort of the first story to the front door. And he said, man, I was up till, you know, 11 a.m. From being, you know, getting home at 2, still you know, folding boxes up.
I tell you what,
You guys were mean to each other.
Oh, well, there was this a whole group of guys, and Mike was part of it. He pulled his fair share of stunts as well. And but Rick Johnson and Alex Van Amber, Kit Davlin, all of these guys, Ariel Kerr, who is now Kit's wife, but just this bunch of guys who were all just goofs, all of them. And we would prank each other. We would play the assassin game all through the streets of Anchorage.
That's where you mess with his car or whatever.
Yeah, I put a exhaust whistle in his car, and he was not happy. That man loves his car. No woman has ever loved me the way Mikey loved that car. And so for me to have done that was taking my life in my own hands. But no, it was good times. It was good times back there in the mid '90s. And
so I remember it was like junior, senior year, whatever I was doing. I was in theater stagecraft class or whatever at Service High School, and for some reason we were in the utility room and doing something, or the boiler room. I'm sorry, I just don't remember. It was one of the rooms off of where the little theater stage is. It's now the Grant Fraser stage.
yeah.
But I remember I saw your name. You had written your name probably 10 years before that.
Well, I painted my name on that wall.
You painted your name.
Yeah,
That's right.
it used to be the tradition that when you graduated out of the theater program of service, you would go into that room, which is where we normally stored our props.
Among the asbestos.
Yeah, right there. And you paint your name on that wall. And because of renovations, that wall has now been torn down. But yeah, in the spring of 1982, with blue paint, I wrote Shane Mitchell.
Yeah.
And then
And I remember being like, I know that mofo.
And then when Erin, my sweetheart in high school, who became my wife, graduated in '83, she painted "Loves Aaron Dagan."
That's right.
So in years to come, and she later went on to teach theater there in the, oh golly, the late 80s, early 90s.
Oh,
Maybe
did she do that?
she
I know
did
that.
shows, yeah. After Vicki Russell and Sarah Ormond retired, and then it was David Goss, then it was Tammy Smith, and then Aaron was there at service until we went away to graduate school, and came in, and there it still was. Shane Mitchell loves Aaron Dagan.
Ellie Sullivan was our teacher
I remember Ellie well, yeah.
in the 90s.
Yeah.
But, so, I mean, I mean, how prominent were you, how involved were you, I guess, were you in service theater? I mean, is that kind of where you really started to do a lot of plays?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, that was my be-all, end-all. That's when I felt that I found my tribe.
Mm.
And it was, there were so many wonderful people there. You know, I would name names, but then the people that I forgot to name would say, why didn't you name me?
Oh.
But it was the place where I found my happy place. And we would do 3 shows a year, and I would work on all of them, either in it or working on it. And they had a class called play production that you could take every semester,
Yeah.
and I would take play production every semester. And there became this core group of people who really loved theater so much that they started to devise curriculum, make more theater classes, so that we had a technical theater class. We had a drama class that was, instead of working on putting plays together, it was on reading plays and analyzing them, and an acting class, and I was very involved with the drama debate and forensics, the improv club, the thespians. It was my whole life.
That's very cool. What I always enjoyed about, because very similar to you, I took play production and stagecraft every year. What I always loved was the kids who wanted to get an easy elective who had never done acting before. You get that in the class too. You have them trying to do Marcel and all that kind of
Well, it's-
fine stuff.
It's working in community theater, we see that all the time,
Yeah.
right? Even now we go, here's this person who has a master's degree in the theater and just classically trained, has all of this experience, done 100 shows, and they are on stage with a person who sells insurance during the day, and this is the very first play. And I think that's wonderful.
Well, I mean, yeah. I started doing theater. Well, even before that, I was on stage with the ballet. But I remember, especially being here at ACT and just the people I meet. And I remember this one guy was in our play, and I was probably like 13, 14, and he was just in town for like that time, just for those few months, and had to go move away forever. And he was just kind of in and out, probably working or whatever, and just was like, I'm going to do a play while I'm here. And I remember when the show was done, he said, all right, have a nice life, kid. And I thought, and it hit me then, like, I would never meet any of these people. Most of them are adults,
Right?
if I wasn't doing this, like just the diverse array of people that I come in contact with, and when you're doing a show with them, you know, you could be much younger than them. You are part of what they're a part of. You know what I mean? Like you are almost like an equal in terms of despite the difference in age and stuff. I mean, you know, if you act mature, of course, but yeah.
But I think it's fantastic because, you know, very often, even as adults, we can live in a bubble where we are hearing our own opinion reflected back to us perpetually. But you get into a theatrical process and you go, wait a minute, these people think and feel different than I do.
Yeah.
They have completely different life experiences, and there's such growth that comes from that. I remember as a young man, the very first time, I don't know what I thought a heroin addict looked like, right? But I was in a play with somebody who goes, yeah, I am a heroin addict, and I'm in recovery, but that's what I am, you know, and I will always be an addict in recovery. And how that just changed my perception of the world and changed my perception of people that you know, thankfully I was a young enough person that that I had years and years of being able to go, no, I need to not judge people. Everybody has their own story, everybody has their own burdens. And what is really important for us to do as human beings is meet people where they are. You know, one of the things that I always love is come as close to me as you can possibly come, and then I'll come the rest of the way. You know, and if you can't meet me,
then you'll have to boombox.
Then I got the boombox, right? I'm there for you.
No, that's great. So I want to talk real quick. Do you know how many plays you've been in? Do you have a number? You ever stopped?
I stopped. I counted until I hit 200 individual plays, and it is now far more.
Have a favorite play or a favorite role that you've done?
You know, it's very hard to gauge that, because there are plays that I go, that was my favorite play at the time. That was such a meaningful time in my life that I look back now and I flinch at the actor that young man was. You know, I said, oh, if I would play that role now.
Oh, right.
You know, and I've just had so many marvelous experiences. Yeah, I love musical theater, and I've done tons of those. I will be in Hello Dolly. I love Shakespeare, and I've done tons of those. I've done original works. I've done plays by Edward Albee, for Edward Albee. I have done plays by Arthur Miller, for Arthur Miller. You know, Waiting for Godot was a play I always hated on the page, and then I acted it, and I went, oh my gosh, I now understand why everybody loves this play. You know, it is a play for an actor. So it is just impossible. There's just too much out there, too many rich experiences, too many beautiful people that I've met. I do have in mind my least favorite plays, but I don't say them because I don't know who's going to tune into this. But I've had some miserable theatrical experiences as well.
But those bring the cast together in weird ways, I've noticed.
Here's the thing. When you go to tell theatrical stories, and being an old man, you know, that's all you do anymore, is you tell people stories. The stories that people want to hear is, what famous person do you know? Have you ever experienced a ghost in a theater? And what horrible thing happened to you on stage, right? They want to hear about the theatrical disasters, the theatrical triumphs.
Well, and you've almost been killed many times.
Oh my God!
Or have you actually died and come back before?
4 times. 4 times my heart stopped. I was stillborn and had to be resuscitated. Then when I was 5, I drowned. Then I had a surgery where my heart stopped on the table. And then when, I don't know if it's still there, but when the Arts Building was brand new in 1986, it wasn't finished yet, but we were having this gala opening, and so we were saying, we've got to put something together. We were doing scenes from the Scottish tragedy, and so this light crew was working furiously on a light system that wasn't finished yet, and I ended up being electrocuted, and my heart stopped, and up there on the catwalk, once I was out of the hospital and well again, they had me lay down and painted my outline there.
Well, if they were dead, they would have done it too.
They would have done it too, yeah. But it would have been chalk. It
Frank's never stopped. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man.
But no, you know, I was in a production of Fiddler on the Roof where the set caught fire. I was in a
Great production, by the way.
Oh, that was.
Boy, those Cossacks, man, they were really burned that place.
That's right. Very realistic. Very realistic. But you know, I've been through shows where the whole set fell down. I was on tour doing an anti-racism show, and we were in an inner city school with an all-white bread cast. You know, we could not have been more privileged. And the cast, or the audience, literally booed us off stage. You know, go home, white boy, and you know, on that same tour, it was when the O.J. Simpson verdict was going to be released, and so we were touring these schools. It was an all African American school, and the principal said, "Okay, we're locking you in this room because we don't know what's going to happen when they announce that verdict." And so that was a very interesting wait. I don't know. The theater has brought me tons and tons of adventures, and it's. I suppose it's appropriate to say at this time of year, it's a wonderful life.
Yeah, but it's not going to stop.
No, no.
So what? I mean, you've done some films.
Yeah.
I mean, I was just at the mall, and of course, Chad or the Tundra.
Yeah.
Chad,
The great Chad Carpenter.
Carpenter.
Yeah.
Has his films, and you've been in his films.
Yeah, and we've actually got he's got 2 new ones that are storyboarded.
Nice.
That-
How did he find you?
Came in through the trap door. We knew Chad loosely through Ellie Yanichek because she had been a Valley girl, and he's a Valley, has a lot of Valley pride, and was just a wonderful guy, the most hilarious and warm-hearted, just the best guy in the world is Chad. So TBA Theater was having a fundraiser, and Wayne went to his booth and said, "So Chad, would you be willing to donate some books and sign them for our fundraiser?" He says, "Depends. Will you audition for a movie?" And we said, "Okay, yeah, sure." So that was in September when the State Fair happens, and in April, Wayne goes, "Oh, today's the day we're supposed to go audition for that movie." And we went there, and it had mostly been cast. There were just these 2 tiny roles. And we auditioned for them, and we went nuts on camera. It was so much fun. We had so much fun that the production team had to keep stepping away from the camera because they were busting up. And they cast us in these 2 roles that were just named Hunter 1 and Hunter 2. Chad wrote Moose the movie with his brother Darren, and got Darren on the phone and says, "We've got to expand these 2 roles. We've got to give them names. We've got to find other places for them to appear in the movie." And so we became Doug and Monty, which are Darren and Chad's uncles. And they were named after their uncles. So, but then after that, Sons of Slim came along, and then Wayne did another short with Chad. We work with the guys at Nomad Cinematics doing an awful lot of commercial work. And so yeah, we look forward to the next films.
So, do you have a goal for your acting career to go even further? Is that a dream or?
My goal is for it to never stop, right?
Okay.
I just want to take whatever comes next. I never saw this year coming, right? I never knew that I would be writing plays to happen only virtually and online, or that I would have to be rehearsing shows with socially distanced kids 6 feet. Didn't see it coming, right? So, do I want to be a movie star? Do I want to be on Broadway? Do I want to write a Pulitzer Prize-winning plays? All of that would be nice. But what is vital is that I am always here. I am always present. I am always doing. I'm always acting. I'm directing. I'm writing. I'm creating. Even in a pandemic, none of that has stopped. None of that can stop. None of that should stop. And I think that's true of all of us. I think one of the worst things that can sometimes happen to an artist is they go, "I want to be rich and famous," and when that doesn't happen, they stop. And when they stop, something dies inside of them. One of the things that I always try to say to artists, young artists, when I teach, is push past 30. Keep going past 30, past 35, and just take what comes next. A new adventure is coming, and it may not be what you expected, but it's going to be wonderful. Everybody is going to has the opportunity to have a wonderful life as long as they keep expressing themselves. Each one of us has this burning, desperate need to communicate to each other, right? Whether it is, there's this person that I'm interested in and I can't figure out how to say I love you to them, or that an injustice has happened to me and I don't know how to let the rage out, or that you truly look. I have a very positive outlook on life. I look at the world and I say it's beautiful, and I look at the human race and I say we're good. Every one of us, in the worst of us, there is goodness, and we just need to see it in each other. I have this burning need to communicate that, and that's not going to stop until I die. And you have that need in you. Every one of us has that need in us to communicate something. We just have to never give up on whatever our medium is. If you draw, keep drawing. If you're a photographer, keep snapping it. If you are a filmmaker, keep that camera rolling. It is too important to let it atrophy in you, not just to you, right? It is desperately you communicate, but I need you, right? I need fresh ideas. I need perspectives of the life of Matt Fernandez, the challenges you face, the heartbreak you've experienced, the joys that you have. I need young people, I need old people, I need people of different races, I need people of different genders and different orientations to inform me to make my life, the tapestry of my life, as rich as it can possibly be. And that cannot happen if I stop creating. And I will stop creating if I say, well, if I haven't got an Academy Award by the time I'm 60, I quit. Just whatever comes next, that's what I want to do.
You're not going anywhere.
I ain't going anywhere.
You're present.
Right? And the thing is by saying I'm not going anywhere, I've gone everywhere. I've toured to Australia, I've toured to Scotland, I've toured all over the United States. I've been all over the world. I have been in films, I've been in plays, I've done poetic interpretation. So if the next thing I do calls me to Broadway, I'll go. You know, if the next thing I do is a movie in New Zealand, I'll go there. Right? But when I'm there, I'll be there, doing that thing. But then the thing I will probably always do is come back here, because this is where my roots are. This is where I am renewed. And this is where I owe the debt of gratitude for, this is the place that made me. This is the place I owe to recommit my talents to.
Yeah. You know, people who, it's interesting about Anchorage, people who have been involved in Anchorage theater for a good while, and don't stop. They really do leave behind a legacy of people who they touched, people who work with them, and think of these, it's amazing, these kids that we work with, especially TVA works with a lot of youth. You think like, man, this person was born in 2005,
right?
And now they're like, going to be a senior. Or
well,
whatever.
and what's very strange to me,
generations, that
is these people that I knew as children and are now on Broadway.
Yeah.
In Academy Award-winning films. I've had 3 of my students appear in Academy Award-winning films. And you see them on the big screen and you go, I was part of that. I helped to make that happen. I'm very proud of me. I'm very proud of them too, way more proud of them than I am of me. But I go, that gives my life meaning. And to see them continuing to go and to grow. And on the other end of it, the people who put my feet on this path, Frank Beebe, Michael Hood, Leroy Clark, the professors that were really influential to me in college, they're all still out there creating too. They're getting it done in their 70s and their 80s, they're writing plays, they're directing, they're designing sets, they're making it happen, they're still creating, and I'm going to do that too.
Yeah, I remember seeing your name on some of the playbills upstairs from the old, from the 80s.
Yeah, my first project with ACT, I think, was in 1985. I was the pyrotechnician for.
Was it Aladdin?
No, Wizard of Oz.
Oh, okay.
Wizard of Oz. That was my first ACT project. But the first time I got on stage with ACT, I was Killer Angels. Not that long ago.
Yeah, great show.
Oh, I loved that show. Yeah. And then I did a Shana Madel, which was very, very special to me. Right here on this stage, it was a wonderful experience.
Yeah, Killer Angels should make a comeback.
Bring it up with Mike Faust.
Yeah.
If he directs it again, I'll do it again. I'm getting long in the tooth to play Civil War soldier anymore.
You're going to be in the sequel, the remaining.
That's right. Whatever happens.
Almost killed Angels. Dead ones. But, well, Shane, I won't take up any more of your time. I appreciate you coming down here, risking your life to be your home.
No, I love Anchorage Community Theater. Most Anchorage artists have walked these boards at some time or another. You're our oldest theater. You are where the roots of the Anchorage theater scene come from. I'm very proud to have been part of it. I look forward to being proud of it being part of it in the future. And I'm always grateful to come and see my wonderful friends. Devin's behind the camera, so we don't get to see her, but she's a very special person to me. Love her to death. And she's one of the people that I knew as a child, and I'm astonished at the woman she has become. And of course you, Matt, I knew you in your teens as well. And to see you as the executive director of a theater company, you know, who would have thought it when you were 13, 14 years old, and now here we are.
Yeah. Well, you are still part of it. Your ACT family is still, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, I want to thank you for the opportunity to come here and visit with you. I mean, both professionally and just personally, it's nice to see my friends, and I want to wish you a very Merry Christmas.
You too. Merry Christmas. You like Christmas, don't you?
Can you tell?
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. This was Shane Mitchell, and you might have seen him around the Anchorage theater community a little bit here and there. And we're wishing you happy holidays. Stay safe. Tune in again. We will continue this show with a new wonderful local artist in the theater in Anchorage. Thank you very much. Well, thank you, folks. Community of Anchorage. That was, again, Shane Mitchell, and he's with TBA Theater. I'd like you all to follow the theaters. I mean, we are locked down to some extent, but we are still doing things around town. So TBA Theater has a bevy of free virtual shows this Christmas time, and they will be available for the rest of December. You can find those on tbatheater.org. And No Cyrano's Theater Company is planning on doing something virtual for Christmas as well. I think they're going to show their Every Christmas Story Ever Told, the show that was done that I was a part of back in 2016 and 2015 will be aired as well, and with a special What is the Cast Up To Now video. And then please, for Christmas time, check out on the 24th and 25th on ACT's YouTube channel, Anchorage Community Theater. We are airing Yes, Virginia, There Is a Santa Claus at 7 p.m. the 24th and 25th. This show was made possible, this talk show was made possible by the support and sponsorship by the Atwood Foundation, the Block Foundation, the Municipality of Anchorage, ConocoPhillips, and Wells Fargo. Thank you very much for tuning in, and just follow us on Facebook and you get to see who our next guest will be. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and stay safe.